especially in terms of corporate social responsibility. And then later on in this report, you'll see, we also looked overseas to some other programs which have proven to be quite successful, to take key learnings of what they're doing overseas as well, and how can we apply that to what we're doing here. So I'll take you through an example later on of some of the elements that we should be looking to incorporate. So just starting with the Creative Bay Plenty mission, to support and enable a thriving arts and culture environment every day for everyone in the Western Bay of Plenty. So that's an overarching mission which this falls under. Okay, the purpose of this study is to test, or to determine whether to test or rest a region-wide art and business program, which, number one, we basically developed some project or some concept claims that we can work with, and when we went out and spoke to, well, we actually had 33 meetings with small SMEs, creative individuals, projects and organisations, and some industry leaders as well. And we needed to sort of frame what this was. So we pushed out some concept claims that art and business builds relationships of mutual commercial and social advantage between local business and creative individuals, organisations and projects. So it's a sort of broad statement, and we'll sort of drill down a bit more on that later. And also that art and business is to increase sustainability of the creative sector and to grow our regional economy, which is there's a little point there to the Tomoana implementation point 1.1, which I believe some of you are aware of here. So it's about how can we utilise the unique creative aspects of the region to grow our economy and make it a richer place to live. So we started this, first of all, we needed to find out what the needs were of the creative sector. So straight up, we had 4 questions that we wanted to drill down on for this project. What are the needs of the creative sector that could be addressed by business? And what is the local desire for business to participate in a program like this? And what's the local desire for creators to participate in a program like this? So so needs and desire are a really important part of it. And then we looked at as well existing global programs between art and business, which we think are successful. So starting off straight into it, the needs of our creative sector. So we sat down with 16 individuals, organisations and projects, and we got these broad areas of need in terms of skill set, upskilling and connection. Funding, at the very top, I think we could probably, all of us could have guessed that at the start, but it was, we can drill down a bit more on the elements of funding people are looking for. Communication support, branding, professional development and professional services. So if we look at funding, sustainable funding was something which a lot of projects are going project by project or event by event, and every year was a struggle. So to either get grant funding or the partnerships which that are typically established, and we'll look at the numbers later, seem to be one-off and event-based. Māori arts funding is a very important one. Grants and funding application support, so how to write these applications properly. Sponsorship proposal development, and linked to that, sponsor identification, which align with the project or the brand or the program, and then writing and presenting pitches, which is linked to that as well. Communication support, media and PR strategy, promotion of events, marketing and social media. Social media strategy came up a couple of times, so that's an area that people sort of will post but not really have that link to business strategy, so we had to provide some support for that. Writing press releases, design, print collateral, advertising and website and content management. So onto the branding, promotion of what we do. The next one, this is a quote taken from one of our creators, and she said, to translate the logic in my head to something that the audience would understand, which I thought was quite a good way of putting it, because quite often it is there, and I know what it is, but how do I tell everyone in a way that they would appreciate? And linked to that, brand awareness, which is pretty much what it is, and how to set up a brand strategy, and how to communicate we're a proper, successful, sustainable business. So it's all around that brand strategy development and execution. Professional development. So these are recommendations that came straight from the mouths of our creators. So workshops for the creative professional, which is something which we have but can hone in a bit more on, and face-to-face mentoring support. And linked to that, a program where groups of creators have access to art and business mentoring services. So that was a really big one to come out of it. A bit more of that mentoring program aspect. Professional services, legal, IT support, financial processes, and business strategy. Interesting one with legal that came out was licensing and contracts. How do you have an open discussion and educate the client around the importance of licensing without harming the relationship, which is always a very sensitive thing for creators, because you feel that maybe when you bring that up, they'll go, oh, that's scary, let's move away. So that was an interesting insight to come out of it as well. Interesting one as well around the needs. 50% of creative participants actively seek commercial sponsorships. But the most important point out of that, 25%, so only a quarter of our creative participants use professional sponsorship acquisition techniques when seeking funding. So that's a real, so that's how do you, researching the spot potential partner, what have they been doing over the last 12 months in terms of communication strategy. You can do that just by looking at Facebook pages, and then developing a proposal which is specific to them, leaving a pack, all that sort of best practice stuff. Only 1/4 of our creative organisations were doing this. So a lot of cold calling and no real planning, which was quite interesting, and something that Creative Bay Plenty can definitely look at supporting, whether it be through art business or other.
Does that match what you saw internationally? Is these stats kind of similar to what you...
Most of the things that we saw internationally in terms of programs, most of them have an understanding. I'd say to be more like 50-50 as opposed to 25%. So it's an opportunity there for us to step in. Okay, so that's about basically a summary of the needs of our creative organisations, projects and individuals, the desire for art and business sectors to participate. So this is a really interesting one. There were a series of questions that we asked, and it's quite difficult to ask someone if they like something without showing them an example of what that is. So the way we did it, we just created a very basic project example, and these elements were shown to all participants, all 33, in order to help gauge top-line desire for an arts and business program. So those elements were upskill workshops, so not necessarily CBOP led, but collaborating and tapping into what's already there. And again, there's more detail on that in the full report. Upskill knowledge base, so an online platform for creators to access business planning templates, cash flow forecast statements, all these templates in there, and also TED Talks videos which are interesting and speak about the value of creativity in business, and some success stories as well, and also access to, like, I use about 4 different cloud-based apps to run my businesses. So we can have a little, if you want to do your financing, there's this, and project planning, this and that. So having those resources on site as well. Having a dedicated social media channel, so online, basically digital connection through social media. A Creative Bay Plenty art and business advisor, who would actually act as the conduit or the physical point of contact for creative projects and also businesses alike, to help connect everyone through human contact, which is very important. Annual pitch or special events, so these are annual get-togethers where we celebrate, whether it be through corporate social responsibility awards or running pitch evenings, and we basically try and get our business and creative communities together in one space once or twice a year. And then quarterly business networking events. So I know Meg has some ideas around these, speed pitching, for example, but we'd also tap into what's already there. We might support them in certain ways, but really it's what's already out there and how can we funnel people through and help book those up as well. So the response to that, so it's pretty confident across the board. All participants indicated that the time is right for a device such as art and business in order to help grow creative industries, encourage innovation through that creative ecosystem, and foster talent attraction in the Bay of Plenty region. So these points here, it was quite clear from everyone who participated, even if they didn't know who Creative Bay of Plenty was or what we were doing. Once I explained this idea of what it could be, they were all like, of course, we have to do this, the time is right. So that was a really encouraging bit of feedback. Now, we've looked a lot at the creative side of things in terms of the needs of the our creative industry, but we've delved a little bit into the business side, but now we're going to get a bit closer into the business side of things. So corporate social responsibility and the current state of our corporate social responsibility. And I think Laurie will be interested in this next part with your current piece of work that you're working on now. So, some stats to come out of that. 47% of our SMEs interviewed have a written localised CSR strategy, which is actually not bad.
Wow. Did they say they did, or you saw it?
They said that they did. Now,
Doubt it.
it's a snapshot, so I couldn't say prove it. So,
Seems really high.
but still,
Yeah.
it could be higher.
The document is different from
If
It might be a paragraph somewhere.
Yeah.
if that is the case, and you probably give me some more wider. Obviously, we spoke to 15 SMEs, so it's a snapshot. But it tells me that there's still a lot of opportunity to introduce a written CSR strategy, a localized CSR strategy. And Laurie might be able to tell us that the numbers are actually 25% or whatever it is.
Yeah, we haven't done the research, but priority one, you guys would be able to tell us what you think.
Yeah, and we can.
I suspect it'd be very large.
So perhaps.
I would agree that might be true for the large businesses, but I would be really surprised if SMEs had that.
Yeah.
So
Same for most small businesses would.
So when we go.
strategy a little later.
Yeah.
So when we go wider and get some more, if we choose to develop this project further, we can drill down on those numbers. Obviously, we have a small sample of 15. Some of them we know we're supporting anyway, so it might be skewed the other way. However, I would say on this 47%, I think there's a lot of room for improvement. An interesting point to note, those SMEs who didn't have a written localized CSR strategy showed genuine interest in developing such a strategy with a view to support creative initiatives in the region. So there's an opportunity for us to put creative initiatives at the same table as other types of initiatives. And we'll get into that now a little bit as well. So on the left, you'll see this is speaking to SMEs that actively seek creative initiatives to support. Again, the numbers might be skewed, but we see versus SMEs that indicated they actively seek to support sport and other, 47%. So we see again an opportunity in creative, even if it's 20 to 27, but there's still an opportunity for creative initiatives to be at that table. Now these are so 85% of the one-off fiscal sponsorship was smaller, between $500 and $500. And there are a couple, 15% of the partnerships, one-off fiscal sponsorships, around 20 to 50K. So that made up 15% of partnerships. But what the most important thing here is they're one-off, right? So these one-off fiscal sponsorships are normally around events. So one-off events, and then next year we start again. So if we're talking about sustainable funding, there lies a challenge as well. There's a one-off projects being supported. Perhaps there are programs of events that we can get supported, so it's more ongoing, and we get signed up for a number of years as opposed to just the one.
Are they treating it as philanthropy or actually business strategy? Those partnerships.
More philanthropy.
Right.
So the challenge for us then is to talk about corporate social responsibility
Right.
and how that can be used.
So they're not leveraging it.
Strategically.
Most I'd say no, but there is an opportunity there. And we'll talk a little bit about what a framework could look like for that later in the presentation. Okay, here we are again. So again, 55% of creative partnerships that we recorded were in the form of events, and this stat just backs up what I just said. Really, 18% of all sport and other partnerships we spoke to, the 15 SMEs we spoke to, were in the form of events. So sport and other seems to have a bit more ongoing. There were sports schools programs, which are longer term programs year after year, whereas the creatives seem to be just one-off, which is quite an interesting insight. When you look at those numbers, it's quite different. So an opportunity again to build more longer term sustainable funding partnerships.
Is that because they're only asking for one-offs rather than?
Could be that. It could be the way that they're being asked. Yeah, it's probably around how, again, we have to do more research in it, but how they're going out and asking for the funding is probably a big part of that. They're thinking we need it next year. Whereas like, whoa, let's think about a strategy here over 3 or 4 years. So perhaps it's the first year is this, the second year is this and this and this, and we think that your branding or your engagements will increase every year by 20%. You can start to put across more well thought out proposals for getting partnerships.
So that would indicate it's not just that they're scared of committing to long term because they'll commit for one but not for the other.
Yeah, it may well be that it's purely down to upskilling the way these proposals are being presented.
Yeah, because Garden and Art will put out a proposal for one event.
Yeah.
Arts
There you go.
Festival, one event, right? So or 2 events. Yeah, so it's
Yeah.
a 2-year thing.
Yeah.
So it crosses, but it's not 6 years.
Yeah,
It's-
or a first
an event.
year with a view to extend it to the next 4.
Yeah.
You know, so it's all about how it's
How you
presented.
pitch.
It's how you pitch.
Yeah.
Exactly. So there's a big opportunity for Creative Bay Plenty to work in and support that aspect of the partnership process. Just a snapshot of the types of partnerships that appeal to SMEs. Creative on the left, sports on the other, on the right. Not a lot of events in here. There's a couple, the Music Train and Parade in Berlin. It's amazing if you haven't seen it before. These are all suggestions from our business SMEs that we spoke to. So there's actually an equal amount. So why can't we have equal chance of getting the partnerships? But that was just a little look. We can drill down on that if you want to see the wider report. And expected CSR benefits from SMEs. This was really a good exercise. What do they want out of it? PR, storytelling, media coverage. So it's around leveraging those partnerships in innovative ways. Employee engagement, vibrant city and region. They understand the responsibility to make the region a great place to live. And also networks and business and personal relationships. And then personal fulfillment was one that came across as well. It was something that they wanted to do as human beings, to give back to their region, because it's a pretty cool place to live, gotta say. So that sort of summarizes a little bit about the desire and some of the CSR practices or CSR projects which are already being undertaken, and also the opportunity to push the creative agenda, if you will, and have it as at least equal playing field to the sports and other category, which seems to be taking most of the sponsorship or partnership resource. So global view. Stepping out now to have a look at what global organizer or art and business programs that are established already, what they're doing well, and this is a bit of a rundown. I investigated, there were about 6 different art and business programs we looked at, and just pulled out a couple of bits out of there that were really key learnings out of that. So existing art and business programs, so we looked across the United States and the UK primarily. So the common successful elements: upskill workshops and seminars, upskill training and mentoring programs, board matching, which is a really interesting one. And Laurie probably can tell us more about this in another board matching presentation, but it is basically taking our professionals and putting them onto boards of creative organisations and projects and businesses as well. Pitch events. So the pitch events were interesting. Most of them linked to the upskill training and mentoring programs. So they go through a program that developed their project, and then there's a night where everyone comes together, businesses and creators, and they pitch, and that's where they're awarded the support. Annual CSR awards. That's something which was quite common. So celebrating our businesses doing excellent things out there. And creative and art experiential events. That's more the creatives coming together and creating these immersive experiences, whether it be a night or a street or whatever it is, displaying our creativity and what creativity feels like in our region. Sustainable funding programs, grants as well, jobs and internship hub, memberships and special member zones. So there was a couple, one in particular, Arts and Business Scotland. They have a paid membership situation where you pay to be part of the program and have access to the resources. They've been around since 1975, so it's amazing what they've done, and they've built it to a point where it's like, okay, if you're serious about building a business, you've got to be a member of this. Obviously, like most of them are free, but when they become a member, we have them as I guess their sign up is an asset in itself, and then they have access to special program. Basically, it's on a website, and they have access to membership areas. All of them on the website point had clear and well-designed websites as well. And there's a few you can check out, which if you speak to me after, I can direct you. They're really amazing the way they do it and how they communicate is, I think, fantastic. And then also, especially out of the United States, a written framework detailing the benefits of art and business partnerships, which I'll speak to a little bit shortly as well. Now, other things we looked at were their mission statements. And of all the mission statements that we looked at, we pulled this one out, Arts and Business Council of Miami. They leverages the arts for economic vitality. Very nice, simple little sentence, and provides meaningful engagement opportunities with the arts to inspire employees, stimulate innovation, and foster creativity. So it's a really nice one, very succinct, and it's one that Arts and Business Council of Miami actually they utilize a bigger program which is set out by Americans for the Arts, and I'll just talk a little bit about that now. So it's called the Partnership Movement. This is a framework which is communicated, as I mentioned, the Partnership Movement is administered by Americans for the Arts, and they push this framework across many American arts and business programs, and basically giving us some reasons as to why, from a creative point of view and also from a business point of view, why should we invest in the arts or partner with the arts. Firstly, recruit talent. Employees want to live and work in a vibrant community. Put your company in the spotlight, and advance corporate objectives and strategies. So those two are sort of linked to brand strategy, or different ways to communicate. So getting the message across in more engaging ways. Foster critical thinking. I know within most organisations that I liked working at, when we have a problem-solving issue, we just need to sort out a workshop an idea and resolve an issue. Those who could just go in and push the thoughts out to a completely crazy place that you never thought possible, and then bring it back to a solution. I found that working with creative people who can think critically is quite an important asset, I find, when working within organisations. Engage your employees, embrace diversity and team building, say thanks. The arts is a great way to show support for your employees and for your customers. We'll add to that one. And then contribute to the economy and quality of life. Basically, when you partner with local arts, you partner with the whole city, and then a link to corporate social responsibility. So that was a really interesting insight that we pulled out of that to say, hey, this is how they're talking about these partnerships. It's quite, I think we can utilize elements of this. Obviously, keeping it local is important, but even finding those 8 reasons to partner with the arts is a really handy tool, I think, for businesses and for creatives. So this one here, we also looked at some, so those are the global insights that we got. And again, there's more information in the more detailed report. Existing opportunities. So these are kind of on the down low. They haven't been launched officially yet. But they are opportunities that, if we can all agree to keep it in the room for now, that'd be cool. So existing opportunities out there that are happening at the same time, basically, as us developing our arts and business program. There's a couple of things that we need to sort of talk about now. Knowledge exchange opportunity. So I had a meeting with an amazing person, Elizabeth Vandervelde. She's behind the Big Idea, which is a national online space for the creative industry. And you've probably seen a lot of jobs advertised on there if you're looking for cool creative jobs. So there's an opportunity to leverage a program which she's currently working on. She's on a new project now, working with a major New Zealand university. And the program aims to be basically a knowledge base which grows through the content developed by members who sign up to be part of the program and shared across all contributor platforms. So they're doing work to set up an online knowledge base, but also linking with organisations like Creative Bay Plenty, and she's shown a real interest in linking with us because of this project, so that our upskill resources, of course we'll start with ours, just ours and whatever we have assets to, but once this launches, will become one of the members. So we'll have access to all these amazing programs which aim to increase the knowledge and skills of our creative individuals, projects and organisations. So that's a really cool one. Just watch out for that, but it's something that we need to keep in mind with what we decide to do. This is another one that hasn't been announced yet, I believe, Laurie.
Workplace giving? Yeah, we're getting it out there.
The Perpetual Fund for so Creative Bay Plenty Fund initiated through partnership with Project Tauranga and Simpson Grierson. So using the smarter giving model, money is donated and invested to grow, distributed annually to community organisations. So there's an opportunity to add this to the mix when speaking to our businesses who maybe are looking for, look, we can't give too much time to this, to working with a big program over a number of years, but however, we want to contribute to the fund, which is a perpetual fund which will just ever increase what we can give back to our creative industry. So that's a really important opportunity that we need to keep in mind when moving forward. Recommendations. Okay, so top line recommendations from here. Project viability, yes. Basically, the feedback and where we're at and where our businesses are at, that's interesting. We are ready to take that next step and move into project development and basically proceeding to the next phase of the process to determine the mix of project elements which are needed to serve our local needs. So there's lots of things happening in other regions and that's great, but we need to work out what's right for us and what's right for us now and where we want to head as well. Project management, so in order to develop that project properly, it requires a robust, collaborative and iterative process, which is kind of creative within itself, in order to ensure the program opportunities are optimized and based on global best practice as well. So a real focus on the project team being resourced for that one. Communication strategy, which will come out of the project development sort of phase, and that's multi-channel innovative approach. So if we're doing things which are creative and it's in our name, let's try and communicate in creative ways as well. For example, augmented reality is something that's very common in Melbourne. I've worked on a number of projects where you can, there's a Creative Bay of Plenty logo over there, I can scan it and Meg's face pops up and starts talking to you about, you know, the most the most common, so those types of things. So, and we might be able to put things around the city where you can actually get updates from Seabold. But let's try and think a bit more creatively, especially using technology. I think it's something that will need to incorporate along with traditional forms of media communication as well. And of course, how do we communicate internally to our creative industry and also to our businesses? They need their own strategy attached to that as well. Alignment, so whatever we do, and you can't really see it on here, but alignment, a couple of points, the art and business knowledge base, that if we develop this, needs to align and keep in mind the initiatives, national initiative, speaking specifically to Elizabeth Vanderveld's knowledge exchange program. So if we build this, let's think about this as part of our long-term vision for it. Perpetual Fund, link creative partnerships program to the Creative Bay Plenty Acorn Project Tauranga Perpetual Fund. So it's another aspect that we bring in. Whatever we're planning on doing, this could be a good way to bring new SMEs into the scene of supporting creative initiative. Okay, in action, what does this look like? So we saw earlier, we gave an example of what these project elements could be, based on the feedback of the needs of our creatives out there, and also research of what we need here, but also globally what they offer. Here's just a little rundown of what it could be. So I just started look, this is a working title, Art Biz BOP. I just had to develop something to visualize it myself. Administered by Creative Bay Plenty and supported by To Be Confirmed. So when I'm saying all this, have a think about how you guys in the room could be potentially involved in supporting this initiative as well. So I've done our own little mission statement, or it needs to be shortened, obviously. But Art Biz Bay Plenty actively connects local businesses to creative projects in the Bay of Plenty and offers a range of support services for businesses and creative groups to leverage the arts for economic vitality, I should say, to inspire employees and stimulate innovation and foster creativity. So yes, it needs to be shortened, but those elements are quite cool. And it was a bit shorter, but we took some bits from what we learned overseas and we're like, oh, we should put that in. So project development is an important phase in this process. And we build frameworks. What do? We build frameworks and accessible resources which aim to connect and upskill at the point where creativity and corporate social responsibility intersect. So that's a really nice part. So how does this apply to our businesses and creators? Well, it sits somewhere in that CSR space initially, but then we can grow from there. So again, the elements, so upskill programs, artist and partner workshops, third-party workshops, mentoring the arts, which is a big idea, program, knowledge base, and tertiary courses. You'll notice that a lot of them are already there, and that's part of the idea, is to bring it all together. And of course, Creative Bay Plenty will be having our own initiatives and sponsoring certain or supporting certain events in certain ways, but the key is to not try and reinvent anything. There's a lot of good stuff happening here. It's about honing in on what it is that applies to our creatives and to our businesses. What can businesses learn from creative organisations? You know, like it's a two-way street here as well. Upskill programs, events. So we mentioned our workshops, artist entrepreneur pitch events. So linked to an artist entrepreneur mentoring program, ideally. Annual CSR and creativity awards events. So something which acknowledges the work that businesses are doing in the area. Creative network-led experiential outdoor event. So that's that immersion. How can we showcase what it means to be in a creative area like Tauranga? And also Groundswell feature event. We've been involved. Creative Bay Plenty has already been involved in the Groundswell Festival of Innovation, which is a fantastic initiative, and this sort of fits nicely into that world. So there's a few new things on there, but we try to, where possible, keep it all, access what's already out there. Industry services, so it's another area. Creative and business directories. So Creative Bay Plenty and Priority One, for example, working together to put a nice directory online where people can go and access what they need to. These already exist in some form, so it's a matter of just making sure it fits into another space, the ArtBizBOP website, for example. And an opportunities hub, so that can link directly to the big idea, which has a lot of cool opportunities on there as well. So again, it's tapping into what's already there, but in our way. Funding and partnerships, so an artist entrepreneur grant, that would link to our artist entrepreneur pitch events. Donations to the CBOP Acorn and Project Tauranga Perpetual Fund. Giving back to the arts, which is in-kind services matching, which is something that came out of some of our global organisations who are doing it as well. Sponsor a creative organisation or project, so that's financial support, and we can put opportunities up there for people to get involved, and also links through and information on government grants as well. And how could it look? So, yeah, I thought, how do I show you all this stuff? Because it's all kind of up there and it's difficult. So I just decided to design a little website. And I'm going to show you a video of how that website might work. So just to give you a bit of, just prepare you. I know I mentioned sports and other as like, not our competitors, but they're doing so well, let's get some of their stuff. The template I use is actually sport themed, but it has beautiful photography and colours. So just keep that in mind. I didn't do it on purpose, but they were like, oh, that's quite funny in a way. So I'm just gonna, should we tap the next one? It should just start a little video. So yeah, we can see the Inspired Upskill Connect funding and gigs. Can you put yours on mute, please? Just turn it down. So you see here we've got our photographs here, beautifully shot. But the key is to have things that can pull out of the website to say, hey, this is happening now. How can we innovate with our creative employees? But the key as well to look at it, it's beautifully shot and it sort of proves what we're about, being creative. So at the top here, we move over into Be Inspired. So this could be a section where we profile business owners, creators in the area. And perhaps there are workshops linked to what they're doing. Perhaps they're giving a workshop, but we try and explain to them, hey, there's cool people out here. And we, again, shot beautifully into our upskill space. So here we have our videos, you can book a workshop, business resources, we're stretching there, templates, and online assets as well. And as we move through the bottom of the website, we can see the different areas that could feature as well. And then it's far down into tertiary study. And of course, how can we get them to connect with us and make an appointment. So now we move over into the connect space. So this is where we have an artist and creative directory, but also you can book a catch up with our art and business advisor to discuss your initiative. And over here, the funding part of it, again, this is Lorem Ipsum, they aren't real at the moment, but that's where we can have all of these different opportunities listed and more detail as well. And gigs, events. So you see the Art Business Bay Plenty / Groundswell launch party, and that's something similar to those where we look at our collaborations, annual events, and we list them all there, and workshops would be listed there as well. So that's how it all could be incorporated. Obviously there was on this website here, there's a few things that will need to be fleshed out, but the idea is the thing that we learned from our overseas programs is that a really clean, well-designed website, when you go on, you're like, oh yeah, these guys are creative. You kind of get it when you go on there, and it's clear and easy. And a lot of the content on this would feed into the Creative Bay Plenty website as well. So aspects of that will be hopefully will be transferred over, but also they clearly link. They're obviously the same thing. So that's I thought I'd just show you that as a little add-on. Okay, that's it for now. Are there any questions at this point about the study or some of the ideas in there?
Any comments?
I have
Any
a
comments?
few.
Any
Yeah, please go, like,
ask your
I
hand?
think this is a really good opportunity for us to also then feed this into how we take
Yeah.
this forward or rest the concept.
Yeah. So, Meg, I thought on the upskill section, I know you and Liz have met, and Wayne and Terry and I met with Liz today about the Social Link strategic plan, but it seems like there's a lot of upskill opportunities that you could hook into there, as well as with Excellent. There's all sorts of training that already exists, that if you simply, maybe Bay Trust does fund matching for a lot of training, so perhaps they could extend that to creatives and make that a more reasonable price. So that, Liz, as you're working on your strategic plan, maybe think of, you're thinking of the social sector, but as we talked about the community organizations and the creative world, how that all fits into what you
Absolutely.
offer.
So Meg and I have talked, so the training opportunities that are relevant that we provide, Meg's put through their newsletters, so it's open and available. So absolutely. And, just following on that board matching concept, I talked with Volunteer Bay Plenty about them establishing a trustee bank. So that could link in, and also were you talking about business people going on to creatives boards?
Yeah.
Because I was thinking equally it would be good to have creatives
Yeah.
and business boards
Yeah,
because
exactly.
they provide really good thinking, I reckon, for businesses as well.
Yeah, it's a great insight.
I've
Sure.
actually sent you an email, Meg, about a system called Pilot Light in the UK. And I used to be involved with it, so the corporates sponsor their executive to go and be a volunteer on the board for creative organisations or non-profit. And you actually are getting paid to go and do it, but you spend 1 day a month with them. And what I had people from Serco and all these other organisations that I got to network with as well as part of that. So it's like a faux board, kind of pseudo board.
Yeah.
And I've sent you the link about how that all works and how it gets set up, and it actually gets funded by the corporates, not the NFPs. So that could work quite well.
And then on the partnership, sorry, I made notes. So.
That's good.
Sorry.
Please.
On the partnership side, so you talked about the CBOP fund, but we've met about our new workplace giving program that we're just getting out into the community, and I think that there is a creative arm. I just think there is a true partnership opportunity there.
Yeah.
Most of the companies that we present to will probably have a few pieces to their giving, so youth, environment, creative, so
Yep.
very few of the people we present to I would think would be 100% creative, but creative should be in the mix.
Totally.
So how we partner